Humanity was no stranger to danger. The galaxy was a vast, chaotic expanse where apex predators ruled planets, and survival was a ruthless game. For centuries, civilizations rose and fell, their legacies forgotten beneath the crushing weight of the cosmos. But humanity was different. Born from the dust of a single, relatively unimportant planet, Earth, humans had always been fighters. Adaptable, relentless, and cunning, they had quickly risen from their humble beginnings to become a force to be reckoned with. When humanity first ventured beyond their homeworld, they encountered alien species unlike any they had ever imagined. Some were peaceful, others terrifyingly hostile, but all were locked in a brutal struggle for survival. There were creatures with claws that could tear through metal, monsters with hyper-intelligent minds capable of strategic warfare, and titans whose very presence warped the fabric of reality. But for humans, the most terrifying thing wasn't their raw power or terrifying appearance. It was the sheer ease with which they dominated the galaxy. These apex predators could wipe out entire species with a single glance, and yet, humans found a way to thrive despite them. It didn't take long for humans to realize they could not only survive in this galaxy but thrive in it. They didn't have the natural claws, the massive frames, or the innate power of the creatures they encountered. What they had was something far more dangerous: intelligence and adaptability. Where other species relied on brute strength or instinct, humans relied on their minds and unrelenting will to survive. It was this determination that led them to study the predators of the galaxy and, in turn, exploit them. The first true test came when humanity encountered the Karath, a race of towering, predatory beings with skin tougher than iron and claws that could rend through the toughest armor. For months, human expeditions had attempted to explore the Karath homeworld, only to be met with slaughter. Ships vanished without a trace, and crews were never heard from again. The Karath were thought to be an unstoppable force, a living nightmare. But humanity did not retreat. Instead, they adapted. They studied the Karath, analyzed their movements, learned their weaknesses. Using a combination of advanced technology, psychological warfare, and sheer cunning, humans devised a plan to subdue them. What began as a simple reconnaissance mission turned into a battle for survival, with humans pushing back against the Karath at every turn. At first, it seemed impossible. The Karatha's strength and speed were unmatched, and their ability to hunt in packs made them nearly invincible. But the humans, ever clever, began to experiment. They introduced new technologies, camouflage systems, electromagnetic pulse weapons, and neural inhibitors, to exploit the predator's weaknesses. They didn't fight the Karath in the open. Instead, they set traps, lured them into ambushes, and attacked from unexpected angles. It was a war of attrition. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. The battle was grueling, but humanity's ingenuity won out. The Karath, once an overwhelming force, were reduced to mere prey. With each victory, humanity grew bolder, and the Karatha's terror waned. Once defeated, the humans didn't just leave the planet. No, they harvested the Karatha's flesh. It wasn't out of cruelty, but necessity. What the Karath represented was no longer a threat to humans. Instead, they were a resource: food, medicine, materials. What had once been a monster in the eyes of humans had now become a mere ingredient for dinner. This wasn't an isolated incident. Over the years, humanity encountered other apex predators, each more terrifying than the last. There were the Geros, massive serpentine creatures with teeth like razors and a venom so potent it could melt through steel. Then there were the Starn, a race of highly intelligent, telepathic beings who could manipulate minds with a mere thought. Yet, each time humanity faced a new challenge, they adapted, learned, and overcame. The Starn's telepathic abilities didn't matter when humans developed technology to block their mental probing. The Geros were nearly impervious to weapons, but humans developed specialized toxins to counteract their venom, and eventually, they learned how to take down the beast without firing a single shot. Humans didn't just survive these encounters, they thrived. They expanded. They grew. The galaxy, once filled with terrifying creatures, now became their playground. No longer did humanity bow before these apex predators. Instead, they stood at the top of the food chain, an apex species in their own right, capable of taking on any threat, no matter how daunting. What once seemed impossible had become commonplace. Humans did not simply fear apex predators, they viewed them as challenges to overcome, stepping stones to even greater feats. With each victory, humanity grew more confident, more brazen. The predators that had once terrorized the galaxy were now little more than dinner. And for humanity, the greatest prize of all wasn't the survival against such beasts, it was the simple act of eating them. Apex predators, once feared by every other species, were now harvested and consumed with ease, their once proud reign reduced to little more than a meal. In the grand scheme of things, this was the true essence of humanity, an unyielding will to rise, to dominate, to conquer. There were no monsters too big, no predators too dangerous, no challenges too great. Humans did not just adapt to the galaxy, they reshaped it to their own image. They had become the apex predators of the universe, and no one, not even the most terrifying creatures, could take that away from them. The galaxy had learned an undeniable truth. When humans set their sights on something, it was no longer a question of if they would overcome it, but when. In the aftermath of humanity's rise as the galaxy's apex predators, the culture surrounding their newfound dominance began to evolve rapidly. What started as a mere survival tactic soon blossomed into a powerful cultural phenomenon. Apex predators, once feared and revered by other species, were now viewed by humans as nothing more than resources to be exploited. And they didn't just survive, they thrived on this. The idea of hunting, defeating, and consuming these terrifying creatures became embedded in human society, a symbol of their unyielding strength and indomitable will to conquer. Across the human colonies, the act of hunting apex predators had become a rite of passage. It was no longer just for soldiers or explorers, it was woven into the very fabric of human identity. Children were taught from a young age about the mighty beasts that roamed distant worlds, beasts that had once terrified entire civilizations but were now just another challenge to overcome. To hunt an apex predator was not simply an act of survival, it was a testament to human ingenuity and strength. In homes, on distant space stations, and even in grand cities built on planetary surfaces, it became common to see humans feasting on the flesh of once feared creatures. There was a kind of pride in it, a satisfaction in knowing that the meal on their plates was something that would have once torn apart entire armies, yet was now laid bare before them, ready to be devoured. It wasn't just about the food, it was a declaration to the galaxy that humans were the ultimate predators. Family gatherings often revolved around these meals. The size of the predator they had hunted and the quality of its meat became a mark of status. Eating such creatures was a privilege, yes, but it was also a reminder of humanity's superiority. People would recount tales of daring hunts and near-death experiences as they feasted, with every bite reinforcing their connection to this higher form of existence. No longer did they need to fear the terrifying creatures that had once ruled the galaxy. Instead, they had become symbols of human triumph. And it wasn't just a physical practice, it had become a cultural event. There were festivals dedicated to the hunt, where humans gathered in great numbers to celebrate their dominance. These events were filled with competitions to see who could bring down the most fearsome beasts, who could craft the most impressive meals, and who could claim the most trophies from the apex predators they had slain. It became a way of asserting their place in the universe, a bold statement that humans had not only survived but had transcended the very concept of fear. Even in times of peace, the hunting of apex predators was a deeply ingrained tradition. Despite humanity's ability to control the galaxy through diplomacy and advanced technology, the hunt never stopped. It was a reminder of their roots, of the struggle and the strength that had brought them to the top. The act of consuming these creatures was more than just a meal, it was a ceremonial reaffirmation of human dominance. Of course, the other species in the galaxy did not view this with the same sense of pride. For many, it was a deeply unsettling development. Alien races that had once prided themselves on their own superior qualities found themselves on the defensive, watching as humanity, with its cunning and relentless drive, stripped away their perceived superiority. The consumption of apex predators became a controversial topic among other species, some of whom saw it as an insult. To humans, it was merely another step in their rise to the top. To other species, it was a brutal reminder that they had failed to stop the relentless tide of humanity's progress. The Zoroth, a race known for their superior strength and aggression, saw the hunting of apex predators as a challenge to their own sense of dominance. They had once been the terror of the galaxy, their predators feared by all. But as humanity began to harvest the very creatures they had once hunted, the Zoroth felt their position slipping. They began to view humans with a mix of resentment and awe, unable to comprehend how a species so young had surpassed them in ways they had never anticipated. Meanwhile, the Vrelians, a species of highly intelligent beings capable of mental manipulation, saw humanity's actions as a dangerous form of arrogance. The Vrelians were telepathic, able to manipulate thoughts and emotions, and they had once considered themselves the intellectual elite of the galaxy. But as they observed humanity's rise, they began to see their own mental prowess as insufficient. The very idea that humans could not only survive but thrive in the face of creatures far stronger than themselves was a blow to their pride. Yet humanity remained unfazed. The more other species reacted with horror or disbelief, the more determined humans became. Every new predator slain and consumed only added to their sense of invincibility. And as their technological advancements allowed them to hunt creatures from across the galaxy with increasing ease, the line between necessity and indulgence began to blur. Apex predators were no longer merely hunted for survival, they were sought after as trophies, prized for the prestige they brought. The societal importance of apex predator consumption reached new heights when it became the cornerstone of human political life. The elite, the influential, the wealthy, all of them boasted their conquests in the hunt. It was a way of solidifying their status, proving their strength, and gaining favor in the eyes of the masses. The hunt was not just a personal endeavor, it was a public spectacle. Political figures aligned themselves with the greatest hunters, and families competed for the honor of hosting the most extravagant feasts. But even as humans reveled in their victories, the hunt was far from a mindless act. It had become an art, one carefully cultivated and honed over generations. The skills required to track, subdue, and ultimately consume an apex predator were taught to the young, passed down through families and communities. It was a complex dance of intellect, strategy, and physical prowess. In a galaxy full of fierce competition, humanity's mastery over these creatures became a symbol of their unrivaled capability. For humans, the hunt was a testament to their strength, intelligence, and adaptability. It was no longer about survival. It was about dominance, pride, and the unshakable belief that nothing in the galaxy was beyond their reach. Whether it was a massive predator lurking on a hostile world or a creature with the power to bend the very laws of nature, humans knew they would eventually conquer it, harvest it, and, when the time came, feast upon it. It was this mentality that had brought them to the top, and this mentality that would keep them there. The moment humanity's rise to dominance began to be felt across the galaxy, it was inevitable that other species would attempt to challenge their newfound position. The very idea that a relatively young and unassuming species had surpassed ancient, powerful races and turned their feared apex predators into nothing more than meals was a source of deep resentment. Many of these species, having once ruled their respective domains with unparalleled might, found themselves struggling to adapt to a universe where humanity not only survived but thrived. They would not let humanity's ascent go unchallenged, and soon, alien forces began to unite, determined to prove that humanity's reign was nothing more than a fleeting moment. The first signs of this growing discontent came in the form of coordinated strikes against human colonies. Alien factions, each with their own grievances, had begun to conspire together in an effort to undermine humanity's dominance. But these attacks weren't typical. These were calculated, meant to disrupt humanity's food sources and resources. The goal was clear: strike at the heart of what made humanity so powerful. The apex predators they had so readily subdued and consumed were not just resources to be exploited, but a symbol of their superiority. If these predators were taken from humanity, their sense of dominance would erode, and with it, the fearlessness they carried. The alien forces sent their own apex predators, genetically enhanced and far more dangerous than any humanity had ever faced. These beasts, engineered for war, were designed to instill terror in the hearts of humans and to serve as the ultimate challenge to their supremacy. There was an attempt to sow chaos on human-held worlds, a direct confrontation designed to remind humanity of its vulnerability. But what the aliens failed to understand was that humanity was never just about brute strength, it was about adaptability, and that adaptability extended to their tactics. The arrival of these new, terrifying creatures was met not with fear but with preparation. Humanity's military and scientific communities, always on the edge of innovation, wasted no time in studying the alien predators. Rather than retreating or attempting to avoid them, they did what they always did. They learned, they adapted, and they fought back with everything they had. The battlefields became arenas where humans faced these newly unleashed apex predators head-on, not out of desperation, but because they knew their own strength. The genetically enhanced beasts were formidable. Some could regenerate from wounds faster than anything humans had encountered, while others had a nearly impenetrable hide. But humans didn't need to match their power blow for blow. Instead, they used intelligence, precision, and resourcefulness. The human military, using newly developed technologies and combat strategies, began to find ways to exploit weaknesses that even the aliens hadn't anticipated. Human ingenuity emerged once again as the deciding factor. Weapons were designed specifically to target the creature's vulnerabilities, and specialized teams were deployed to capture or neutralize the predators before they could do significant damage. Human soldiers, equipped with the latest in tactical gear and weapons, hunted these creatures with the same ruthless efficiency they had used to hunt the original apex predators. The aliens had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, and in doing so, they had set themselves up for failure. In the midst of these battles, a deeper psychological warfare unfolded. As each alien predator was brought down by human hands, the message was clear: humanity would not bow to fear, no matter how terrifying the enemy. The once terrifying apex predators were now reduced to trophies, their genetic power rendered irrelevant in the face of humanity's resolve. The very creatures meant to instill terror became nothing more than another resource for humanity to exploit. But it wasn't just a matter of defeating these new enemies, it was a matter of proving a point. The galactic community had to understand that humanity was not a species to be taken lightly. These alien forces, once convinced that their superior predators would be enough to intimidate humans into submission, quickly realized that their efforts were futile. Every victory for humanity was a reminder that no matter how strong or how advanced the enemies were, they could not outlast the determination that drove humanity forward. Despite their failure, the aliens continued to plot against humanity, unwilling to accept that they were no longer at the top of the food chain. But each time they tried, humanity adapted, pushed back, and emerged victorious. The arrogance of other species quickly gave way to grudging respect. They could no longer deny that humanity had proven itself to be the apex predator, not just on Earth, but throughout the galaxy. And as humanity stood firm in the face of these attacks, it became evident that their strength wasn't just physical. The true power of humanity lay in their ability to turn every threat into an opportunity, to confront every obstacle with unwavering determination. They did not retreat, they did not falter, they advanced. And with each victory, humanity's reputation grew, not just as survivors, but as conquerors. The aliens' attempts to undermine humanity's power, to take away their precious apex predators, only served to strengthen humanity's resolve. These attacks were nothing more than a temporary annoyance, a brief interruption in humanity's march toward ever greater heights. And as humanity continued to subdue the enhanced predators sent to challenge them, one thing became abundantly clear: the galaxy now had a new apex predator, and that predator was human. As humanity's dominance grew, so did their understanding of the true power they held. The subjugation of apex predators had become a symbol, not just of survival but of human superiority. With each victory, humanity not only reaffirmed their position at the top of the food chain but also began to shape the galaxy in their image. They had proven that no beast, no matter how monstrous or advanced, was beyond their reach. Yet, as their influence spread, the consequences of their actions began to ripple across the galaxy in ways no one could have foreseen. With each new conquered predator, humanity began to control more than just physical territory. The very ecosystems of the planets they inhabited and the genetic makeup of the apex predators they hunted began to shift. These creatures were not just trophies, they were resources to be studied, dissected, and, ultimately, replicated. Humanity's scientific community, driven by an insatiable curiosity, began to unravel the secrets of these apex predators. From their resilience to their ability to adapt and survive in harsh conditions, the secrets held by these creatures were invaluable. The manipulation of the genetic codes of these beasts led to new technologies, new forms of weaponry, and even enhancements for humanity itself. The research into predator physiology opened doors to genetic engineering, creating new breeds of human-augmented soldiers capable of surviving in the harshest environments. Humanity's once feared enemies were no longer just predators, they were tools in the making of an even greater human empire. The very concept of natural predators began to lose its meaning as humans bent the laws of nature to their will. This new reality was not without its dangers. The manipulation of these creatures and their genes was not without consequences. There were whispers of unintended side effects. Predators who had been altered and bred for human purposes began to exhibit behaviors that were unpredictable, even dangerous. Yet, instead of backing away, humanity pushed forward. In their relentless drive to improve, to perfect, they were willing to take the risks. They had already proven they could overcome any obstacle, and now they faced a new challenge: controlling the very power they had unleashed. But it wasn't just the manipulation of the predators themselves that shifted the balance of power, it was the implications of humanity's unrelenting progress. Other species, once proud of their position as the galaxy's rulers, now found themselves in a difficult position. They had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt and evolve. Now, they watched as humans, with their limitless curiosity and drive, began to challenge everything they had once taken for granted. The once feared apex predators were now merely the beginning of humanity's march toward even greater power. The alien factions that had once united against humanity now began to fracture. Their attempts to strike back, to halt humanity's progress, had failed. With their own predators and military forces losing ground, they were forced to reconsider their position. Instead of engaging in open warfare, many began to employ more subtle tactics: diplomatic pressure, economic sanctions, and sabotage. Yet, each attempt to hinder humanity's growth only served to reinforce the belief that humanity was unstoppable. The galaxy was changing, and it was becoming clear that the old order was no longer sustainable. In response, humanity began to consolidate their power. They formed new alliances, built new coalitions, and pushed for a united human front. They knew that their greatest strength lay not only in their technological superiority but in their unity. The idea of humanity as a single, cohesive force that could reshape the galaxy became central to their identity. This collective vision began to rally more and more species under the human banner, turning what was once a simple survival instinct into a galaxy-spanning empire. This empire, however, was not one based on domination in the traditional sense. Instead, humanity offered a new way of life, one built on the idea of progress through cooperation and mutual benefit. The once feared apex predators had been tamed, their raw power harnessed for the betterment of all. Under human leadership, the galaxy began to thrive in ways never before imagined. Resources were shared, technological advancements spread, and the fear of the old predators slowly faded into history. Yet, even as humanity's influence expanded, there were those who resisted. Some species refused to acknowledge humanity's role as the new rulers of the galaxy. These species clung to old traditions, to outdated ideas of power and superiority. For them, the hunting of apex predators was still a symbol of their strength, a way of asserting their place in the galaxy. They refused to accept the new order, the idea that humanity could be the ultimate apex predator. For them, humanity was still just a young, fragile species, one that had risen too quickly and might one day fall just as fast. But humanity was undeterred. They had already proven that their rise was not a fluke. They had faced the galaxy's most terrifying creatures, outwitted the most advanced alien minds, and turned their enemies into nothing more than a resource. To question their place at the top of the food chain now was to ignore the undeniable truth: humanity had already won. Their dominance was not a matter of opinion, it was a fact. The galaxy, once full of uncertainty and fear, had shifted. No longer did the apex predators dominate the food chain. Now, humanity stood unchallenged at the top, their place solidified by their ingenuity, adaptability, and unwavering drive. The once feared predators had been reduced to little more than trophies and resources. The galaxy had learned that to challenge humanity was to challenge the very laws of nature itself. And as the dust settled, it became clear: humanity was not just a force to be reckoned with, they were the galaxy's apex predator, and nothing would ever change that.